I'm going to throw some options at you. You pick one, and then we'll circle back around. You get to explain kind of your answers. Sound fair?
Got it.
All right, here we go. 9mm or 45?
9mm.
Glock or SIG?
SIG.
Licensed concealed carry or constitutional carry?
LTC.
That's licensed, right?
Yeah, sorry, licensed.
Okay. Tim Kennedy or Jocko? I may be ambushing you on
I'm going to
that
go
one.
with Tim because I stand a greater chance of getting beat up by him more regularly than I do with Jocko.
That's what I figured. All right. We'll circle back around to that. Invader coffee or Black Rifle coffee?
Ooh,
I know.
that's another harsh one, man. Put me up against the ropes so early. Well, they're both good friends of mine. So it's like, but Black Rifle has been really helping us out a lot. So I'm gonna go with Evan and what we've got going on in the back burner.
All right. Iraq or Afghanistan?
Afghanistan.
The UFC or the NFL?
UFC.
Yeah. Paper or metal?
Paper.
Row or run?
Row.
Appendix or other?
Other.
All right. Okay, so that's your 10 rapid fires. Let's circle back around. Okay, we went 9mm or 45.
Mm-hmm.
So you went with 9mm.
Correct.
Yeah. What's the why? Because it's cheap, readily available, and you can still get it from your buddies?
Yeah. Well, I think it boils down to, back in the Navy when, we were doing our thing, it boiled down to, how many BBs could you carry?
Yeah.
And so if I can choose to carry a magazine of 15 rounds versus a magazine of 8, I'd much rather have 15. And we've also learned in, today's modern technology of ammo is concerned, the difference between 940 and 45 is so marginal that it really boils down to how good of a shot are you? If you're not a good shot with either of them, it doesn't really matter. So I like the 9. It seems to do everything I need it to do and has done for many decades now.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. The ammunition is chosen a lot of times in our world based on what is it I'm doing. That's number one. But second to that is, like you said, bullet placement. A 22 kills people just as much and just as often as a 9mm 45 or anything else.
Correct.
Okay, we went with next was Glock or SIG. SIG. So give us your why.
So, obviously starting off in the Navy, funny story is that when I actually got to Buds, we still had the Berettas. So I went through Buds. I was like one of the last classes that had the Beretta issued. And then when I got to the teams, I got issued the 226. So, spent a lot of time on that particular platform. As I left the Navy and started working, there were several opportunities for me to work with different guns. Glock was one of them. And, I don't really have anything bad to say about them. They're good firearms, but once SIG got into the striker fired market, they really started to bring the heat. And, I'm a big fan of the 320s. I love the 365s. I just came back from a conference where we focused on concealed carry, and predominantly of all the subcompact pistols that were out on our firing line, overwhelmingly the majority was the P365. So, or it's a big brother, the XL. So I've been pretty happy with them. It's funny too, because, in a couple of days, I'm going to be leaving to go up to New Hampshire. I'll be up at the SIG Academy teaching a class this weekend. So, I've done a lot of things with that company. I see them, as far as a firearms manufacturer is concerned, they really are also, I consider them to be more of an advocate for what we do and their engagement with the community. They're very much kind of like out there in the community doing things, a variety of everything, whether it's charitable events or whether it's working with law enforcement or whether it's bringing people together for some sort of, consortium. They're actually out there doing it.
Yeah, I agree, man. SIG has come a long ways. And not to mention, when I was up there and checking out their manufacturing, it's important people know that though it's got the overseas flavor and the name of their company, Sig Sauer, every single one of those weapons is manufactured in the United States, right there in New Hampshire. And their CEO is a pipe hitter. Like he
Oh yeah,
is a former Israeli badass running the show. And so, yeah, I put my money on SIG any day of the week.
for sure, for
Okay.
sure.
You picked, hey, concealed carry license over constitutional carry. And the reason I threw this out there is, but for the listeners, the state of Texas just September 1st approved constitutional carry, meaning if you're 21 years or older and you don't have any felonies or anything haunting you, then you can go to a store, you can buy your gun and obviously start carrying it concealed that day or the day that you
Mm-hmm.
actually get the gun. Whereas what we were prior was licensed,
Right.
meaning you had to go and take a couple of day course, shoot some paper, and then you can conceal carry that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So your thoughts on that?
Well, so first of all, I feel like, if you have to ask permission, it's really not a right. So I fully support constitutional carry. I just never, I disagree with the fact that we ever actually had to go down that road to become constitutional carry. I feel like that should have never been an issue. We should have never had that. However, the fact remains that there are still a lot of people so now people here in the state of Texas understand signages because there are certain signages that prohibit you from entering certain locations. 30-06, 30-7, those are like concealed carry, open carry. But a new one is 30-5, which relates to constitutional carry. So some places now restrict you from going into them because they view the fact that you have no training or no experience as a detriment to the public safety or something along those lines. And as a result, they've banned you from going into those facilities. So I'm disappointed in that because I don't feel again that should have been an issue. It's not something that I feel like needs to be governed. It's like you said, you go, you get it, you do the thing. If you're responsible, hopefully you will educate yourself and better yourself, but it's not a requirement. It shouldn't be a requirement. It wasn't a requirement in the Constitution. It shouldn't be a requirement here, but it is. So if you have an LTC, even though it's an extra step, and even though you have to go through the rigmarole of getting it and all the other business, you're no longer subject to that. You can pretty much, if you could carry in there concealed with a license, then you're good. But another interesting component to this is the fact that if you travel, so you and I, we travel all over the country and the world and all this other jazz. So what happens is in the country here in the US, there's what's called reciprocity, which means that if I'm traveling to a state that has negotiated with my state to recognize my license to carry and allow me to carry in their state, that's what's called reciprocity. So if you don't go down the road of getting an LTC and you travel outside of your state, you may or may not be able to carry in the state that you're visiting. So having an LTC is a nice, added benefit of being able to travel. And I think the other thing, and this actually has a lot of merit in our current state of affairs, is if you have the license to carry, you had to go through a background check, meaning that if you had any felonies or whatnot, that would pop up and you would be denied your LTC. When you have the LTC and you go into the store to purchase a firearm, all you need to do is present your LTC card, and you no longer have to go through the background check because it's implied that if your LTC is valid, you already went through the background check. Why is that important? Because during this pandemic, I saw it firsthand where people were coming in to buy a firearm, and there was when the system got backed up from the millions of people that were buying firearms, it shut down. People don't realize this, but the NICS actually, you couldn't call in anymore and couldn't get any confirmation whether or not you were good to go or not. So people were having to wait to get their firearm because they couldn't, the federal check that has to be required for every purchase, that system broke during the pandemic. It was so overwhelmed with the volume of buyers. But if you had an LTC, you could circumvent that completely and just walk in and walk out. And I saw a lot of people that had a disappointing or frustrated time period because they were in desperate need to get a firearm and they couldn't because there was about a 7 to 10 day wait sometimes trying to get through Nixus to try to get the confirmation back. And so, people were like, I want it now. And we're like, well, it's a federal law that you have to wait until we can get confirmation. And until we do, we can't sell you the gun. I mean, we can sell it to you, but you can't leave it here with it. So
yeah,
that was frustrating for a lot of people. So another little known fact that an LTC kind of brings to the table that people don't realize is that they can bypass that because it's implied that if you have an LTC, you've already demonstrated that you met the requirement for the background check.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's never a bad thing to get training, right? An LTC is training. That's it. It's like, why wouldn't you want to know your left and right flanks when you're carrying a gun concealed? But
another interesting tidbit, since you brought that up too, was when I spoke to a lot of the newer gun owners during this time period, their biggest aversion, if you will, to carrying concealed was that they didn't know or understand the law. Yeah. The LTC program does a great job, even if it's a surface scan, of at least providing you the information that is relevant to carrying a firearm, deadly force, use of deadly force, the whole bag, all that stuff is covered in the LTC course. So many of them were relieved that information was available to them when they went to get their LTC. So another little benefit there.
At the end of the day, if you pull the trigger, right or wrong, you're going to jail that night. That's just
you're definitely gonna. Yeah, that was your worst day. Welcome to the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. You're listening to Can You Survive This podcast? Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and share on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.